big return ultimate, unstoppable force as well, but he goes down. A double kill for Raheen. Flash forward from APA. He wants to clean house, but he goes golden. Gorika's in the back line, and the team is gone. Just like that. Poof! There's a magic trick.
This is a turn fight for Barrage. PCL getting focused on Strampus now. Flashing over the wall. Winter misses. Strampus goes just nuts and picks up the triple kill.
Again, this is disgusting. Tuesday, please forgive me for this.
God, that was, oh my goodness.
Mine, Flash.
Oh my god.
Alright, that's the two-man A-bomb coming out from the Silas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is day 3 of the Unified Grand Prix tournament here on twitch.tv/academy. And make sure that you're also tuning in to twitch.tv/upsurge esports to catch the other matches. But for now, we're going to be looking at a couple of the upper bracket matches today between TSM Academy, Solafide, and of No Org and Zeus Gaming. It is myself, Rafa, Og Battery, and then Mike Young is joining us again for round 2 this time around. Mike, we're glad to have you back. You know, have you enjoyed the matches so far in the Unified Grand Prix?
I'm enjoying them a ton. I get to see all my friends, you know, from solo queue playing in the tournament. It's kind of nice.
Awesome.
It must feel good to not have them here. It must be good to not have to face them at solo queue because they're busy. You get to get your free LP.
No, I actually love how I was actually playing in the Scouting Grounds Cup circuit last year during COVID, and now I get to see a bunch of familiar faces.
It's a good way to be able to keep in check with them as they are continuing their professional careers here. As you know, we do need to kind of give a recap of what happened for yesterday's matches. If we could look at the bracket as of the current standings now, TSM Academy did take the 2-1 over Winthrop, although it was, you know, extremely close here. But, you know, the other matches that happened that were on the Upsurge Esports channel were the Solafide Cloud9 Amateur match. And even though Cloud9 Amateur did manage to upset Barrage Alk Battery, Solafide were definitely much more prepared to take down C9AM.
Sure, they had a few days coming off of the Challengers Uprising semifinals that they ended up losing to Barrage, and, you know, shout out to Barrage, we'll see them later on. Solafide had a basically standard kind of composition for themselves, right? They were able to finally take down C9 Amateur, and we're seeing a little bit of change for them in the past couple of series that we've watched them. So I'm looking towards how they kind of come into this series versus TSM Academy. I think that the change in how they want to play, we'll talk about it later, will kind of create an interesting dynamic inside of the Rift, and it should be at least a little bit of a closer matchup than maybe we would have expected.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this. I know a lot of these players from playing with them side by side, so I'm excited to see how they match up, as well as with like playing on a new team.
Yeah, thankfully, you know, we'll be able to talk more about that matchup later on in this pre-show as we, you know, looking at the other matches that occurred off the other stream. No Org did 2-0 Maryville University. Maryville had an impressive showing against Evil Genius's Prodigies, being able to get the sweep on them, but, you know, as we have begun to accept that No Org is by far the most dominant amateur team coming out of the Tier 2 tournaments that we saw between Cup, Big, and Risen collectively. But it, you know, thankfully for Maryville and C9 Amateur and Winthrop and Zeus Gaming, their journey is not, or CLG Academy, their journey is not over yet, because they will be competing in the lower bracket, which will be occurring over on the Upsurge Esports channel. Winthrop and C9 Amateur will be battling out to keep their hopes alive. CLG Academy will be playing against Maryville University, respectively. And I kind of want to go down the line, starting with, you know, Og Battery. If we look at the Winthrop C9 Amateur, you know, what are kind of your predictions going into that matchup? Who should come out on top?
C9 Amateur have had a really rocky start going through all of Tier 2. I think them being able to kind of just glide with points into Tier 1 was really impressive. Taking down Barrage is obviously no small task within itself, and a 2-1 is really, really nice after a dominant Game 1 in their play-in stage. I'm looking at this is a Winthrop who has had a little bit of issues, especially with playing through their bot lane with Sirkenji and Saskio, and Wixie and Breezy have looked really dominant as a pairing. And obviously that mid matchup, Captain Shrimps' Doxa is not one to kind of shirk at. So I look at this, I think Winthrop and C9M are kind of similar in playstyle and also similar in how they want to rank up in the power rankings for all of our teams. I mean, they're the 9th and 12th seed respectively. I look at this, I think it'll be a very close matchup, one that I think will definitely go the distance for the full 3 games.
I kind of want to go to you, Mike Young, as well. Just to clarify, this roster for C9 Amateur includes the likes of Speedo, XU, Captain Shrimps, Wixie and Breezy, and the Winthrop University roster includes Hybrids, Frost Forest, Doxa, Saskio, and Sirkenji. Do any of those members really stand out to you? And if so, would they be the ones leading that respective team to victory?
I definitely XU stands out to me. Just playing against him a ton in the preseason solo queue, I always thought he was like one of the really good mechanical junglers. I'd like to see how he adapts, in a team environment. And I've seen really good things from him, so I'm kind of excited to see how he adapts further as like going into amateur and then to the upper leagues as well.
Yeah, the cool thing about XU is that he is someone who has primarily played in collegiate, I believe, for University of California. But then he recently adapted into amateur play about 2 years ago. He got a couple stints on Fruition Esports and then Team Front, and then finally eventually finding his way into C9 Amateur this year. And most of this roster has adapted towards playing and putting resources into XU, which is why during some of the height of his play earlier on this year, we saw him on things like the Nidalee and the Lee Sin. And Mike Young, I mean, you've said it before. Whenever you're playing those types of champions, you're sacrificing agency for damage, and it puts it more on the rest of your team to be able to pick up the slack in terms of hard crowd control to be able to ensure that you can get those ganks off or those invades off.
Yeah, for sure. Those champions definitely have high skill ceilings, but just a lot of skill to pull off.
And then looking at the other lower bracket matchup is going to be CLG Academy against Maryville University. And to run down that roster, CLG Academy is got TN in the top lane. I'm blanking on...
Griffin.
Why am I blanking on the jungle?
Griffin.
Thank you.
There you go. Look at that.
Hey,
Look at
we
the
even
beautiful
have that.
faces. We got it back.
Shout out to
Let's
Producer
go.
Tone, man. We had that from yesterday. RGS in the mid lane, Katsuri in the bottom lane, and then Hooks on support. And then for Maryville University, you have Chippies coming in, also from the Oceanic region. Odd Orange in the jungle, Wolfie in the mid lane, and then bottom lane, and Evan RL and Shady. So for this roster in Maryville University, they have historically played towards topside, investing a lot of resources and being able to get support roam timings from Shady to get out of that bot lane, playing towards Chippies along with Odd Orange and Wolfie. And a lot of times you'll see things like the Twisted Fate being able to roam and putting Chippies on something super strong side. Whereas for CLG Academy, like TN has been playing, strong lane dominant champions like this Jace, like the Riven. But here, it doesn't seem like CLG Academy is necessarily on the same page when it comes to coordinating a top-centric game.
I think they do a perfectly fine job for the most part. It's that early game where they're tracking Zoo. When we saw them yesterday, they're tracking Zoo the entire time. They're making sure that they have basically complete information of the jungle. Makes it very difficult for enemy teams to kind of approach in the first 15 minutes. I think CLG did a fantastic job in their series of making sure that their early games were tight, making sure it's a very much for their game and what they want to do. But it's when we start to get to that 30-minute mark where the game, I think, starts to get away from a lot of the players. They make these really weird mistakes, or their draft is specifically in even game 2 where we saw that Camille, it was very tough for them to end up killing the Hecarim with that Yuumi. They kind of just drafted this comp where they want to fight, but they don't have really great targets for their Skarner that Griffin was piloting. So this is a team that I think is doing good in the early game, and maybe if they kind of dip into that, they kind of index more into playing for that early game, maybe we see them start to take over games and finally grab series wins. But other than that, it's when we start to get to those shot calling parts of the game where it gets, I think, very dicey for this team.
My player to look out for in that game is just Shady. I've just known Shady for a while in solo queue. I just love how he's always looking around for plays, looking for roam timers. I think that's a sign of a really good support.
Yeah, I mean, Shady has gone to Scouting Grounds for the past 2 years. He was drafted by Cloud9 during after the event, and I know that he was also on TSM Academy a couple years ago as well for an extent before returning to Maryville University. So this has been a player that has been circulating within the upper levels of play in here in NA for quite a while now, and so we would expect that he is, by far one of the stronger supports in this.
What really
tournament.
surprises me is that every single year, I always see him as like the top 3 supports, like 1,000 LP. Even though he's been around for so long, he's just 1,000 LP every single year. So that's just still so crazy to me.
That consistency, being able to play at the top level, it makes Shady incredibly valuable to pick up. Hey, LCS teams, looking towards Summer Split or next year, just saying, you got to put Shady up.
We got a few NA supports. There you go.
Yeah, but we are going to be now getting into our highlighted matchup of today, which is going to be TSM Academy taking on Solafide. And Mike Young, I know you're very familiar with a lot of these players on both sides of the rift here, having played with a couple of them as well in Hanser for TSM Academy, but also I think you've had your fair share of experience with Doko, who was a former TSM Academy top laner as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with pretty much all of them in solo queue, or just like possibly, in comms at least once before. Also, I played with Apollo on Echo Fox for a few weeks. So I'm kind of excited to see how the teams go against each other. I personally think that TSM Academy is going to win this, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. I'd say that TSM Academy does have a higher skill ceiling, but I just know that they are faltering a little bit right now, but I can see them still taking this.
Mark, this is actually the only way this is the only situation where we can get 3 TSM junglers in one location. We can get, and that's the max amount. We can get the max amount of wards put down. So we have all 3 of our control wards down. We make sure that they're here. We've got Mike Young. We've got obviously the 2 players in this matchup. This is the perfect situation for them.
Oh man, I do want to look at some of these matchups in depth, but we do have some kind of clips to show how some of these players have been kind of defining their playstyle and where their comfort lies. For I think starting with TSM Academy. Even though they were struggling against Winthrop University in yesterday's matchup, they finally found their footing when they were able to play towards the top side. And it was when Babbitt blocked in this Nidalee, by far between his time over at Worlds on Legacy and now here in the Academy season. Nidalee is probably his biggest comfort champion that he prefers to play. But all guys, you note here, they play towards setting up this Rift Trail consistently on the top side of the map, but they tend to give a lot of advantages on the cross side here.
Yeah, specifically in this game, it is where we're seeing TSM make this play every single time in the series. They get the Rift Herald around 8 minutes. They do a really great lane swap, at least in the next game, or in the first game of this, where they drop it, they get their bot lane to rotate, they get their Rift Herald, and then they take one of these side lanes and they just completely demolish it. They take both of the turrets and it makes it very lopsided on the map for that team to then answer later on when they're trying to play. And in that series specifically, TSM had a kind of a big problem with engaging fights. It was either hesitancy or just a lack of being able to engage into some of Winthrop's comps. I mean, we said it yesterday, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but it's literally just flash, just go for it, just start fighting. Special was definitely really adamant on just getting into that backline and disrupting. And hopefully with getting more matches under their belt, TSM Academy will kind of find their identity, because right now it feels like they are a little bit lost. They're kind of heads in the clouds.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with Special there, where teams just need to just start a fight when they see the opportunity straight away. If you hesitate for even 1 second, you just lost a huge opportunity right there.
It was funny when Special was kind of going with over the games with us while we were getting ready for Desk. There's a lot of times like, man, you know what? Yeah, Cody Sun has an item power spike over Saskio right here. this is where you should just force fights, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, this is really similar to what Mike Young was saying, how to win games. You know, you see the enemy, you have the power spike, just go in, just kill them, man.
Yeah, I mean, we played on the same team together for a split. I love him.
Sometimes it's that easy, guys. Like the brains
Just
think
win.
alike, and
Just fight. Easy.
Yeah,
You know.
just yeah. Once you outstat them, then you just force fights. But the lack of proactivity from TSM Academy has definitely plagued them in a couple instances where, even though they have still eventually won their respective game, you can always go back and criticize. You know, you could have made this play like 5 minutes earlier. You could have done this 10 minutes earlier. And so, against better teams, which, Winthrop University, not to bag on them, definitely one of the bottom half of the amateur teams coming into this tournament, against Solafide, who is arguably one of the top 3 amateur teams, along with Barrage and No Org. F in the chats for Barrage on their exit early, though. But Solafide are definitely not going to be a team to give those advantages over to TSM Academy so freely. If they're not being punished, Solafide has typically been a team that is super powerful when it comes to mid and late game fights if you give them the free pass. And normally Solafide have lost when a team like Barrage or No Org are able to play towards the early game without any fear. And taking no prisoners whatsoever, and then snowball the game to the point where Solafide don't have any means to recuperate. We do have kind of a clip showing how Solafide have been playing towards the top side of the map, though, Alk, as they snowball Dokla here in this top lane.
Yeah, and this is typically how we would like to see Solafide play. This is how they've played in most of the Tier 2s. I will say that more recently, going up against Barrage, they actually were playing kind of to their top side. This is I want to see them start playing towards Apollo and Zazel, which we're starting to see glimpses of. This is kind of the playstyle that we'll see from Solafide, and we saw this yesterday. I think that this might be a better stylistic matchup for TSM than Winthrop was, because now you have Hanser, who's going to be playing much more of a weak side top laner. He wants to play away, not get too many resources, just try and live for as long as possible. These things like GP come up really big for him in these series, and if Solafide are going to be matching that, well, playing around towards your bot side where you have Cody Sun Fizzy versus Apollo Zazel, it is going to be a much more contentious matchup, and I know Mike Young was really hyping up some of the bot laners we have here.
Yeah, honestly, I have huge respect for Cody Sun. Just like watching him through his career, he has really shown up in like really clutch moments, especially on Clutch Gaming when I watched him play. And even on like 100 Thieves back in Immortals back in 2017 when I was just a rookie player, he really impressed me there. So I have a really good impression from him from solo queue and from pro play. So I think with the resources and on a carry champion, like if you give him like Vayne or a hyper carry, he can definitely carry if he has like the item advantage.
The bot lanes are definitely exciting prospects to talk about, both being on the LCS stage at some point in their careers. But, when we look at for TSM Academy and Solafide, I kind of want to dive into this 2v2 jungle and top lane matchup here, because this is where it's kind of a similar story in terms of I don't want to say the weakest link potentially for Solafide, but when we look at the Solafide roster and this lineup of players who have all had a lot of experience between Dokla, Winston, Tuesday, Apollo, and Zazel, Winston, although he has been improving a lot historically over the tier 2s, has been the significant underperformer for Solafide, and has been out-jungled by the likes of Fnatic or Anda, or even other amateur junglers in the scene like Maddie. And so this is where, again, someone like Babip, who has come into this academy off of this promise of a protege jungler from the Oceanic region, who has also been underperforming in the academy scene. If he's not on something like the Nidalee, then it seems any other jungle pick that he goes for doesn't always work out in his best interest, or he doesn't seem to be the most coordinated with this academy roster. And maybe that's a lack of team cohesion or of a team identity, as this roster is still trying to figure out its kinks. But the difference is going to be here, Alk, is when we look at that top side. We know that Winston has been playing a lot towards Dokla throughout the games and the games that they have won. Whereas, you know, as we mentioned before, Hanser has been playing weak side most of the time here.
They have been putting in ganks into top side recently, I think, for BABIP and for Winston. This will be a very interesting matchup for these two. These are two, like you're saying, these are two junglers who are having a really hard time, at least I think, in finding what their identity inside of their team is. I know for BABIP that it for this entire TSM Academy team, they are lost, like we said. But Winston and BABIP should be, I think, our focus here, because one of these junglers is going to have to beat the other, right? Like it is going to, what lanes are they going to prioritize? I mean, their stats here are kind of neck and neck for the most part, other than that damage per minute. I see this as, hey, these are junglers that don't quite fit into their teams. I don't know how they're going to slot in, and it's going to be on Solafide, it's going to be on TSM to find ways to enable their junglers, I think, in a really powerful way.
I personally would have to give it to Solafide for what I've seen so far, which is they like to play together and really fast together. And I think that in this current meta, playing faster is going to give you that sort of like slight advantage, like setting up dives in the top lane, just like the clip that we saw. And if they can continue to do this with objective control over dragons, then I think that Solafide has the advantage there when it comes to playing together as a team.
And as you can see on the stats here so far in the Unified Grand Prix, that, you know, even though Hanser, you can say that boasts a larger, more extensive pedigree than Dokla over the course of a longer career, you know, just so far in terms of performance, because of the prioritization for Dokla in the top side, he's been involved in more fights. He's been higher on the terms of damage contribution and being able to pump out those numbers in the skirmishes and team fights that Solafide have been a part of. And when it comes to champion pool, Dokla boasts the likes of the AP Gragas, the Gnar, Renekton, and Hanser definitely shares those champs pools. But, you know, going back to what you were saying, Dimitri, about one of the key picks for Hanser will probably be this Gangplank. So because it does allow him to play weak side and negate a lot of the lane aggression that Dokla will be looking to exert in this lane matchup, just because GP is so safe in that isolated 1v1. And if Winston's not able to play a jungler that has a lot of agency to enact those dives to punish, then Hanser could get away in this lane and then just be able to provide utility throughout the mid and late game.
I see this matchup, and I think that we're actually going to see an evolution inside of the game for these two, where we're gonna basically see two top laners that are maybe battling on the wave. We might see a kind of similar to what we saw versus Zoo in the end, or where they're fighting over the wave. Maybe the person who's playing the tank or someone like Gnar is going to be able to chase the other one down and get them pretty low. But so far, Solafide have shown that they are playing away from their top laner. And while Dokla is kind of similar in vein to some of our other top laners, specifically the one on No Org, it is, I think, we are going to not basically see what we've seen from Solafide. They're going to play around their bot lane. Dokla will probably attempt for some solo kills, and I think that's where TSM can strike, where BABIP goes on a roam. He tries to punish on these overextensions or these kind of greedy plays coming out from Dokla.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how the top lane matchup goes, because I think both players, if given a lead, can definitely snowball that matchup. And I think that even with some jungle help on Hanser's side, on Kevin's side, I think he can easily take down that tower, you know, snowball that top lane matchup and possibly affect the rest of the map. I think Solafide's win condition is to try and slow down that while also trying to get their bot lane ahead and stack those objectives like dragons.
Well, you know, this has been a really kind of interesting back and forth conversation we've been having, because, you know, for me and Alk, we've had this kind of projected view of Solafide and TSM Academy. But I know that because, you know, Mike, you have been able to play with a lot of these players. When it comes to predictions for this overall matchup, me and Alk Battery were convinced that Solafide would be coming out on top. But I kind of want to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on why you believe TSM Academy will be the ones victorious in this series today.
I think that although TSM Academy has been a slump in the Academy circuit, that their experience, like their experience over the board, does trump Solafide's. And not only that, but I also think that the players, just individual mechanics wise, do have a slight advantage across the lanes. Top, I think Hanser has advantage there in champion pool and in the 1v1. And then mid, I do think that the TSM Academy mid is going to be slightly better in the 1v1. But I'd say that mid jungle synergy, I have to give that to Solafide. And then bot lane, I'm just a firm believer that if Cody Sun gets a carry champion with some gold, he can just carry the game.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned the mid jungle 2v2 matchup, because that is one other matchup we did want to kind of look at, because both for Solafide and for TSM Academy, the mid laners are not necessarily the central points for most of their win conditions. They usually have been put on kind of control mage duty. They play safe, they play to scale, and they always come out on top in those team fights. But, you know, with this graphic coming up, Tuesday has been a monstrous performer so far in the Unified Grand Prix. And even though Sword did have a spectacular 2 games once he was able to get his hands on the Azir, I wonder if that is something that Solafide will look to take away from Sword and ensure that Tuesday have the overall better matchup here out.
Every castle, every empire is built on a sturdy foundation, and that is Tuesday, 100%. This guy statistically is a monster in the game, and every match that we see him, I think there has been very few times, and specifically they fall to Barrage, where Tuesday has looked outclassed in the mid lane. Even up against the likes of Five Fire, I think he's held his own across the board all throughout Tier 2, and it is on the bed of these mid laners that both of these teams are at least somewhere stable, right? Sword has been fantastic to watch, even if his team somewhat kind of falls apart around him. He's been a real pleasure to watch, especially as an upcoming mid laner in Amateur and Academy. I'm looking forward to see how these kind of go head to head, because both of these guys, like you said, are the control mage players, but their positioning, their team fight awareness is some of the best that we have. And as you can see, the stats don't lie. These guys are huge when it comes to their team.
I definitely think that Tuesday is a player that is really interesting for me. And when I think of Tuesday, I think that he has a really good champion pool. He's really solid. But one of his strengths is that he plays really well around his jungler. He's always looking to roam and make plays around his jungler. And just from playing against him in Academy, I just noticed that he is a team player for sure. And that's something I really respect out of him. And then as for Sword, his mechanics are just insane. So
He's nuts on the ladder, man.
I'll give Sword mechanical advantage, and then I'll give Tuesday the team cohesion, the teamwork advantage.
And that's something that we've definitely seen as a pattern. Like when Sword is feeling comfortable and he is not in his own head, then he performs admirably, which is why we saw a lot of the ways that he was able to control a lot of the fights on the Azir. The Syndra against Doxa Zoe didn't pan out as well for him, but after a quick little pep talk from Coach Peter Zhang, he was able to get back in it and help TSM Academy come to an overall series win against Winthrop University. But as we are winding down the clock and getting ready for our first game draft against TSM Academy and Solafide, I know, Mike Young, you said that TSM Academy are going to take it the series. Are you saying that it's going to be a quick 2-0, or do you think that Solafide might be able to take a game off of them?
I want it to be a quick 2-0. I'm really confident in TSM Academy's bot lane. I think if they get played around, then this is looking good for them. I'm only worried if they're just left on an island, though. Then I'd be worried for TSM Academy. But if they're played around, if Cody Sun is played around, I feel like he can carry this for sure.
What about you, Walk?
Nah, you already know. When we came into this, we were looking at Solafide. I'm also looking at a quick 2-0. I think that this series will be really one-sided. Solafide, I think, are basically... I will respectfully disagree with Mike Young. I think lane for lane, these guys are fantastic players and just better than TSM Academy. Although TSM Academy, I think they could make it a very convincing run inside of the losers bracket on the Rift here against Solafide tonight. I think they're going to get a run for their money.
Yeah, honestly, if TSM Academy had taken down Winthrop 2-0 yesterday and made it super convincing, I would be more confident in TSM Academy's chances. But with compared to how Solafide have been performing throughout the Unified Grand Prix, I'm going to give the edge over to Solafide. But it's not going to be up to us. It's going to be up to the two teams to play, as we are going to be taking a quick short break. When we come back, though, TJ and Iberia will take us through Game 1. So don't close that tab. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It was a 2-minute break because there are two of us. Matt are ready to go for day 2 of the UGP. We are currently having a slight issue with the tournament realm, but I think we're migrating it. We're sorting it all out. There may be a little bit of a delay at the start of this game in particular, but it will all be smooth sailing after that, hopefully. My name is TJ. I'm joined by Matt Iberia Clendaniel, who moments ago was telling me he loves running it down mid as Yasuo.
No, but listen,
That's
if
what
I
he
tell
said.
you if I tell the audience the champions I actually like playing, they'll like me less than that. So you know what?
You're
It's fine.
right.
It's fine.
Prominent
Yeah.
Shaco man, Matt Iberia Clendaniel. We're headed towards Game 1, and I say headed towards, because again, we don't know quite how long that delay is going to be, but Game 1 between TSM Academy and Solafide. Before we get too far into TSM Academy and Solafide, I want to just touch on it. Matt, how are you feeling about this series? Because I do think this is maybe the closest one yet.
I'm really excited, mostly because I want to see TSM Academy come into this, because TSM as an organization are usually known for having strong teams that will win the season, at least in the LCS, their way to Worlds, and then kind of fall out. So I'm expecting that domestically, their talent acquisition is going to be roughly as good. But I was watching the games yesterday, and I was thinking, I think Solafide has a chance.
No. Matt, what you don't realize is that Proving Grounds is Academy Worlds. So all they need to do is make it to Proving Grounds and then fall out. No, okay, so I have a little bit of personal angle here. I got to cast the first day of Academy this season. So I was building my notes, I sat down with Crumbs ahead of time, we went through all the teams. And as we were kind of talking through them all, we got to TSM Academy and we were both like, man, this is a stacked roster. Well, this for sure will be one of the top teams. Super excited to see them succeed. And then I cast the day and they didn't do great. They won a game, they lost a game over the 2 days I cast. But, you know, early game, seasons are like that. I'm sure they'll win overall. And over the course of the Academy season, I'll admit I didn't watch every game, but I'd tune in every now and then. And every now and then I'd be tuning in and I'd see TSM losing. I'd be like, man, that doesn't seem right. These are a great team. I'm sure this is their off day. And then we get to the first Proving Ground qualifier, where the teams that have been struggling in Academy are having to play. And for some weird reason, Matt, this stacked TSM Academy lineup is here in the Proving Grounds.
Yeah, I'm not sure, TJ, what you call it when every day you tune in seems to be a bad day for the team, but rough,
well,
I guess.
You call it the TSM Academy record this season. That's what you call it. They went 3-6 overall. They didn't look especially good even in their victories. And they didn't look especially good even in their victory over Winthrop University, the collegiate team they took down yesterday.
Oh, God. You had to remind me of it, TJ. You had to.
Yeah. How many Barons was it that series?
Oh, how many were stolen, or how many did TSM miss?
Sure, give me either stat.
3 is how many were missed. 2 were stolen. To be fair, the third Baron that was not stolen was secured by the mid laner, but it was secured. And the steals were interesting. Of course, the first one was Doxa coming in, had Unsealed Spellbook, stole it with the Smite. Sure, fine. Had a level up even. We take those. The second one was a Jinx Rocket, and that one, a little bit less confident on taking. We prefer to leave those at the depot instead of taking them with us.
We do not pick those up when we have the option.
No, we generally opt out of those particular. You opt out of any steal, actually, but
Jinx Rocket steals in particular.
Yeah,
you feel pretty bad about.
It's like if you're at the grocery store picking out a cart in the before times, and you find the one with the squeaky wheel, and you're like, I don't feel confident about going about this for 30 minutes in the store, so I'm gonna just slide this back. That's what those Baron takes should have been. Instead, it was nearly game-winning for Winthrop both times.
Did you know that in the UK and much of Europe, all 4 wheels on the shopping cart rotate freely? So you can just put the shopping cart sideways or whatever. Because all 4 of the wheels spin.
That's nice. They had that in China,
I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, I didn't either, but that's like fun. That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
Fun grocery cart.
No,
facts.
it's weird because you have to context switch. If you go from pushing a shopping cart around in... I'm bringing this home. Watch this. If you go from pushing a shopping cart around in the US to pushing a shopping cart around the UK, as I did in my childhood, you try and move it one way and it doesn't work right because it will like drift diagonally. And both shopping cart designs are equally valid, but you have to adjust. And Babip is a star jungler from the Oceanic region, came out of Legacy Esports in the OPL, where he played incredibly well, and he hopped on over to the shopping cart that is NA Academy, and he's trying to push Matt, and the shopping cart's going in the wrong direction. It doesn't move like that.
All right, because we got it. We've solved TSM Academy, TJ. Babip is a shopping cart. Woo! Got it.
Babip has had a really rough season overall, and that was not what I was hoping for coming into the season, and I think that has been the core of many feelings about this TSM Academy lineup. Let's flip the table, though, because obviously TSM Academy on one side have been a disappointment, have been able to, I think, as the season goes on, start putting some things together. I'm hoping that this will be the path to success. But Solafide are on the opposite side, where they are an Academy team, essentially, that started outside of Academy.
Yeah, it's really interesting having this matchup happen, because on both sides there are really, really storied players. Of course, on Solafide we have Alorum, I'm remembering a different matchup. We have Dokla, but Tuesday in the mid lane is one that I'm particularly looking towards because he has been playing fantastically in previous series. But the bottom lane is the one that has the most experience, and this is one of the places we are really going to be looking here for this matchup versus TSM, because you have Apollo and Zazel, both former LCS bottom lane players, going into Cody, Sun, and Fizzy, who are looking to be one hell of a bottom lane, even though Fizzy was sort of a last-minute substitute initially.
Yeah, not to turn back towards TSM, but that has been one of the brightest spots on that team this season. They were trying to pick up Yursan from the PCS who was a solid support in the PCS, I would have been, and will be, presumably, once his visa eventually gets approved. Excited to see what he does, given TSM Academy's resources. Unfortunately, he didn't get to make it over. Coronavirus, visas, whole thing. So instead, we've had Fizzy all season long. You can see him slotting in there as our draft phase begins. He was promoted directly out of the Harrisburg Esports Collegiate team, got onto the Rift in his first Academy game, and destroyed it. So he's really fun to watch. Him and Cody-san have been a really fun time. Solafide do have threats in multiple lanes. Of course, they have that Apollo Zazel bottom lane, which will be matching up against Cody-san and Fizzy. And has drawn the first two bans of our ban phase as Seraphine and Senna get blasted off the Rift real fast. But you don't want to sleep on Dokla and Tuesday either. Tuesday was a huge carry for Solafide in the game they did win in their Cup semi-final, which they lost, unfortunately, to Barrage. But the game they won, it was because Tuesday popped off, carried the game. Dokla will do that as well. He has like 12 kill Camille games randomly. So they have a lot of threats over on the Solafide side. You can't just ban them all out.
That's the key, though, I think that you brought up, is that the consistency of Solafide is what we're really looking to evolve here. That's what I want to see grow out of them from the semifinals from which they were knocked out. And there's a good pickup starting out here. We've got the Olaf and Alistar over for Solafide, and of course, the Udyr for the side of TSM Academy. Every single game, man, we're going to see this guy.
And we get the Azir as well. The Udyr, of course, popular amongst both these junglers, so you're not surprised to see that. But the Azir here in the mid lane, playing with Sword, the young prodigy, playing his first season in Academy for TSM. The Azir looks really good for him. He's able to play defensive, use his, frankly, astounding micro ability to just stay safe in lane, earn out a CS lead, be scary in late game. That is what you're going to look to see here from Sword on the Azir. We also get a Braum, which indicates to me that Cody-san may pull out something a little more static. Cody-san loves to play those more scaling defensive laners, and that would match with the ban out of Seraphine and Senna. They're worried about Solafide getting something scaling, being able to play to that late game. If you're playing around the fact that you already have an Azir, this makes a lot of sense. We'll keep track of that. Maybe something along the lines of a Jinx for Cody-san.
I'm excited, though, about what's coming out of Solafide so far. This is really good team fighting, really good early game coming out here as well. Winston, we have seen some inconsistency from the past, but I don't know about you, the last series we saw him play, I think he stepped up incredibly.
Winston played in Academy and wasn't comfortable. It didn't look great. He would have incredible series where he would dominate, and he would also have series where he was obviously the weakest point on his team. And seeing Winston evolve from that to over the course of this season with Solafide, where he still has those incredible pop-off series, but his baseline, his bottom worst performances have gotten so much better. Where Winston is able to be quietly scaling in the background, be a utility player in games he's not able to take over, and he's able to be that kind of safe secondary threat for the team when he's not popping off, and that's an incredible evolution. Bans here, GP and Vayne for Solafide. Vayne and GP both Haunter picks for that top side. This Gragas may be thrown up there. Should be thrown up there, I apologize, as the Alistar is already locked in. Could also be in the jungle if we wanted to get fancy with the Olaf, but I don't envision that. Instead, we are hovering a scaling pick, man.
Two different scaling picks, and I'm not sure. Okay, it's just the Ezreal. Nothing too fancy here today. I'm a little bit sad, but you know what? This is a fine pickup here for Cody-san. Ezreal Braum is a really good lane. I'm excited to see which build he goes, because there's been a little bit of fluctuation there. I'm suspecting if they want him to just scale up into the late game instead of being an early game anchor down in the bottom lane, he's going to go for the tier into Essence Reaver into Duskblade order.
So I was checking my stats there, and I would like to confirm that Ezreal has not been a great pick for Cody-san this season. He's been playing pretty well across all his games. Cody-san has been pretty solid, but the Azir itself, or sorry, the Ezreal itself hasn't been great.
TJ.
Yeah, I am tracking this. This Gragas does go top side.
No. Forget the Gragas. I don't care about
The Scion
Gragas.
will be against it.
we got a Sivir. We have a Sivir. Sivir has been struggling so much ever since the preseason started. She has not had a build that has really been working out for her. So I'm incredibly interested to see what seems to have been solved here. It looks like everyone is going Muramana into Duskblade, so just going for heavy wave clear, heavy burst with the Boomerang Blade. And I'm all right, Apollo, show me. This is what I want to see. This is what I love to see. We finally get to see some innovation in the AD carry role, which is like famously incredibly static in terms of what its pool is. You have 3 or 4 AD carries, 2 of them get banned, the other 2 get picked. That's how AD carry's been for a long time. But Sivir coming back in, that makes me interested.
Matt, I am skeptical, which isn't to say that I don't want to see it work out. I definitely do. Ooh, this is new. We didn't have this yesterday. Producer Tone evolving on us.
Fancy.
Which isn't to say I don't want to see it work out. It is, however, to say I don't believe in it. Apollo is the player who can make it work, though. His Sivir play would be in line with everything that he has played previously, which tends to be like Jhin, scaling late game picks down there in the bottom lane. Apollo wants to be an alternate option for Solafide. Either they play to him during the early game, feed him, he wins the game flat out, or he's sitting on something like a Sana, like a Phalios, like a Jhin, and he can play that lane slow and steady, be a teamfight threat come mid-late game, and not really need many resources because Apollo is going to be stable in lane. And that makes this a matchup to watch versus Cody, Son, and Vizzy, who have been winning their lanes despite their team's underperformance in the season.
So TJ, I know you're not feeling too hot on the Sivir, but hear me out.
Sell me.
I have a few theories here. I'm not sure which is going to pan out. That's the exciting part. Theory number 1, Ezreal cannot wave clear to save his life, quite literally. So once this Sivir gets rolling in the laning phase, Ezreal is going to have a hell of a time CSing whatsoever. They know that the person to shut down on the side of TSM Academy is Cody Sun. If he can't farm successfully under tower, that is going to be a huge contributing factor. Off the back of that wave clear, you can also transition it into a lot of dragon and objective takes, just because of the amazing shove she gives, giving you a lot faster wave control. The problem for TSM traditionally is that for the last few series, they have just been ignoring the first 2 Drakes entirely. Off the back of that, Solafide could be saying, hey, since they don't really like those dragons all that much, we'll take the first 2 without any contest. And then when the third one comes up, TSM normally contests that. What if they're struggling to keep minions out of their base? What if they're struggling to keep them off their towers, have to deal with that instead? What if we can distract them somehow? That's my other theory for this Sivir.
How do you feel about Fizzy being on Braum into this Sivir, though?
It's good. Like, that's the problem, right? Is the Boomerang Blade just gets completely shut down by the wall. I just want to defend Solafide because I want Sivir to be good. I need her to be good.
You don't have to defend them. I am genuinely psyched to see this. I just need to see the pudding, right? I need to see the end result and know why Apollo has drafted it. Other matchups to highlight here, as we are still experiencing some disconnects, I believe. We'll get into the game as soon as possible. Other matchups to highlight that Sion does take to the top side, and will be playing into a Gragas. We have seen a decent amount of Sion across various positions. He was played, you'll love this, in the LEC alongside a Senna as support. So they would attach the root to minions and then throw minions forward to root people. Really cool tech. That's not what's going to happen here. But we have seen a decent amount of Sion across this season in various roles. How do you feel about the Sion in this team for TSM Academy, where Haunter has been an occasional strength and occasional weak point, and is now playing into Dokla, who fulfills a similar role over on Solafide?
It's really interesting to me because Haunter has been, let's say, inconsistent. And this has often been his problem. A lot of times he'll go way too aggressive in lane, not calculate his damage properly, get killed for it. This has been a Haunter trademark since LCS. I have seen him have a lot more success on very aggressive bruisers like the Renekton, whereas the Sion has a ton of teamfight capability, who can lane pretty easily with it. But I'm looking for those teamfights. I'm looking for the way that TSM have been playing. They've been playing around Haunter. Right. They've been giving him the Heralds. They've been giving him the gold. My question is what Sion can do with that.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with this, is you have this Scion. I am only interested in a Scion if they have a lead. Sorry. All you poor Scions, don't even slide into my DMs. And if we get Scion with a lead, then Hanser is terrifying. Otherwise, I don't know, it's kind of a shrug. I think it's going to have a bad time, particularly into characters that can kite here, like the Orianna, like the Sepper.
Well, I think the advantage is there's a decent amount of mispositioning you can have from the side of TSM. There's CC coming in there as well from Fizzy. But yeah, it does seem more of a kite back composition just because of the Ezreal Braum alone. TSM getting spotted out immediately on this ward. Not what you want.
They don't know you're here. It'll be fine. So, welcome to game. I don't think we did that. TSM are our second Academy team to take to the Rift. They did so yesterday against a amateur team. They have been completely read out. They're being folded here, Matt.
They're going to be going for it. Cody Sun is going to be the #1 target here. Exhaust goes out onto Winston. Cody Sun blows the heal, but it's not going to be enough to get him out. First blood goes to Apollo. Solafide with a beautiful pincer. Fantastic level 1 ward. Whoever put that one down.
And for any TSM fans in the chat, now is a great time to remind you this is a best-of-3 series. It's really a fantastic start for Solafide. They're able to rocket off to a 1,000, 2,000 gold lead immediately, depending on what this turns into in the jungle. And you can't think of a better start. They just executed that perfectly. TSM sat on a ward, then went for the engage, and were thoroughly punished.
I am genuinely impressed with that from Solafide.
Yeah, Zazel's Flash Pulverized there was sick. Like, they full-focused Cody Sun really effectively, and I think that indicates what you were talking about in the draft, where you were saying, oh, they clearly want to take down Cody Sun. I think you're on the right page there.
Well, the interesting thing for me is we've seen throughout this season a lot of level 1s that we could describe most charitably as scuffed to hell and back. Right? We have seen disastrous level 1s. We have seen 5-kill level 1s. The thing that excites me about this one is this is the cleanest level 1 we have seen that results in kills.
Yeah,
right? Because a lot of the other ones are just like, hey, there were 4 kills you got out of that one, but it was real close to being an ace the other way around.
Solafide saw where TSM were, let them dig their own grave, came in on the flank, pincered them beautifully, closed out the kills, and that's what you can expect. You know, as I was about to talk about at the head of this broadcast, we have seen TSM and yesterday CLG play amateur teams. This is the highest rated amateur team that is taken to the Rift against an Academy team. Solafide won the first Scouting Grounds Tier 2 event of the season that was Risen. They got knocked out of the big league playoffs, the 2nd in 5th through 8th by Barrage. They got knocked out of Cup in 3rd through 4th by Barrage. So they are consistently reaching playoffs, contending with the best teams, though not Barrage, for those #1 slots in the region. And seeing TSM go up against them here, I think, is going to be a very good barometer of where people are and maybe what to expect once Barrage sort out their rough first day here in the Tier 1s.
I do want to highlight here, I was completely wrong on what this build was going to be for Apollo. I noticed it as soon as we went into game, but we had that level 1, so I haven't had the chance to talk about this. This is going to be the lethal tempo on Sivir, means going for a little bit more of an attack speed focus build, but also, like, not really. It's really interesting because you'll see Muramana into straight up Cyrilda's Grudge. That is one of the builds I have seen coming out from people like Kramer. So it's going to be an interesting game from Apollo. You can also go the traditional like Gale Force into whatever, but that's nowhere near as fun, I'm going to be honest.
Did you see Dokla just walk through Hanser's AoE and belly slam him?
Yeah. Well, that's
what are you
the
gonna
fun thing. It's the fun thing about a Scion lane, not for the Scion, but you kind of just have to play a giant game of chicken. That's how you decide whether that Q stuns or not.
There was a mid lane gank attempt just now. It happened off screen, but Sword did just get shoved back by Winston. as he roamed down. Tuesday TP'd back into lane to make that happen, and that means that TSM are going to be resetting right as this Drake comes up. Solafide are going to try and start it real quick. Babip is in the area as well. He is currently just outside the Dragon Pit. So we'll see if TSM go for a rather unusual for them first Drake contest. If Solafide are willing to burn it down this boldly. Lots to be determined.
Looks like TSM really gunning for it. That's the control word in the pit, so they see this one happening. The question is if they're going to contest it.
And that
we'll
is a
find
question
out on the next episode.
We'll find out.
Unified Grand Prix.
I'm glad we are exactly on the same page. That was a great time. If you're wondering whether you could watch some more UGP, you could find out the action over on the Upsurge Esports channel, which I'll bring up, because I don't know what's just happened to our feed here, and it might take a while.
We'll let you know. As soon as we have the information, you'll have the information.
Yeah, it just kind of flashed gray. One of our casters, one of our good friends, Cubby, has a camera that does that, so maybe he's infected.
But everything except his eyes. Everything except his eyes goes this disgusting gray color, and it's like TV static from VCR days. If anyone ever owned a CRT, looks like that.
And he's just got these piercing eyes looking through the gloom.
It's terrifying. It always happens just as it's about to come to us, because he does the analyst desk and we do the cast immediately after. So we just have to deal with Cubby staring into our souls for a good 20 seconds. And then it's
Is
like,
Cubby
over
watching
to
this
TJ in Nigeria.
Is Cubby watching this game?
I hope so.
Well, we might have just solved it, Matt.
Oh. Is he about to go on? Is he about to come in here? Because that would
Cursed our
explain it.
video game, and now he's going to come through the screen. I've got bad news. Now's a great time to tune into the Upsurge Esports channel, because you might have
You
an
have
unexpected
7 minutes.
visitor. We will bring you back. I still don't know what exactly has gone wrong with our feed here, but I do hope the game is paused so we can resume it. Things started kind of exactly as we found out. Yes, the game is paused. I have gotten confirmation of that, so we're not missing anything. We're just hanging out.
I feel like
So how's your
this is the
3D
point.
printing?
You know, I was like, worried you were going to ask that, because before we went live... Alright, so there's this really cute Bulbasaur planter model out there, where you can, like, plant a plant in Bulbasaur's back.
Like
so I
a
printed
flower
one
pot
earlier.
that's a Bulbasaur.
Yeah, I printed one earlier.
And
but
I,
really small.
Oh, that's a really small plant.
Well,
What
it's
kind of
supposed to go
plants are you
bigger.
fitting in
You're
there?
supposed to print it bigger, but I wanted to make sure it worked first.
Oh, okay. I
So I
thought you had
printed
like a single peanut or something.
Yeah, just a single bean. So I was just trying to tune in the settings, see what was up. It turned out fine, but there was some slight issue with it. I was like, you know what? We're gonna go for this again. I printed another one, changed the settings. He lost his foot, TJ. I don't.
Oh, no.
He's just missing a foot.
Oh, good job, producer Joe. Get us out of that. I don't want to see this poor Bulbasaur.
This mangled grass type.
Luckily, Pokemon prosthetics, really good. People don't know that. Welcome back to game. That Drake did get started by Winston. He appears to have backed off of it now. He'll be roaming towards that bottom lane, where there is some action ongoing.
Apollo looks for a little bit more damage. Winston can't find the undertow.
Busy on the front lines will be shoving forward, but he's just getting burned here. This is actually working much better for Apollo than I thought into a Braum shield.
I mean, worst case scenario, you can just auto the shield. You know, it's not just the boomerang blade. Oh, this is going to be Aston's Rumor first. Okay. This is going to be a lot more auto-focused than I was expecting. I was expecting it to all the damage come from the boomerang blade. Instead, a lot of it will, but Apollo is building such that the auto attacks are going to be the main source of damage, and the ricochets.
I'd like to give you an update on our other lanes. Haunter's Scion is slapping up here on the top side. Poor Dokla has not found a way in here on Gragas, but I don't think he's too worried about that. Gragas is the sort of champion where he doesn't especially need to find an early lead. Everything else is balancing out pretty even here as Dokla needs to make a daring escape from the Rift Herald pit. The most important of those is Tuesday versus Sword in the mid lane. Keep your eyes on that in particular. Tuesday does have a lead right now.
The traditional TSM Academy 8-minute Rift Herald is coming out, of course. Will be celebrated by all on the blue side and nobody on the red side. They're just going to use this as an opportunity to get the dragon. I like that.
Yep. Good call from Solafide. TSM execute on that Rift Herald at 8 minutes like clockwork every single time. They have an alert set up on their phone. It beeps. They go for the Rift Herald. They pick it up. And then normally they throw it up towards Haunter. We'll see if that happens. Dragon will be taken. Haunter had to pop ulti to get back to lane in time here. That was very satisfying CS. TSM have lane swapped. It'll be interesting to see if they keep it this way.
This is new from them. I'm interested in this. Instead of sending it up towards Haunter, they are still taking it top lane, but they're going to be giving it to the bottom lane.
Yeah, Bab up here with the Rift Herald. Dokla aware something is up. Will stay ahead of the stun, the Winter's Bite. I don't think that Dokla is going to have access to this turret, though. Oh, he's scary, though.
As you say that, he
6.
just walks up and forces everyone out.
Post level 6, I guess you just really don't want to fight him underneath turret. What about in front of it, though?
They're still not fans. They're still not fans.
Did you see how slick that escape was?
Dokla's good. Oh, but he might be in trouble.
Stunned. Cask does land. Winston's here to bail him out.
So Zazel. Wow. Okay. Apollo has picked up that first item. I want to see where these lanes are going because Apollo may come top, but may just go bot, expecting Cody-san and Fizzy to back.
Yeah, I was watching that there. Apollo on the minimap wavering between options. Still is. Not sure if they should match the roam or just address the fact that Haunter is getting a whole lot of plates here. This is a really effective lane swap TSM have just pulled off. This is really paying dividends for them.
Yeah, Haunter still gets his plates. This is the way TSM love to play. They love to drop some plates there for Haunter, but he's still going to be able to get them because he forces Apollo to kind of figure out what's going on.
You know, 2 plates over. Apollo is doing damage to him, but won't want to chase him through a bush. And this Rift Herald is still held by Baba, so this has overall worked out very well for TSM.
It feels like at this point it's just the threat of the Rift Herald being scarier than the Herald itself. It's like a blitz queue. They're just waiting for it to happen. It never will. But Solafide, worth noting, are pretty close to taking down this tower thanks to the massive wave clear coming out of this Sivir. They've already got it down to just 2 plates left. So this Herald needs to go down soon, or TSM will lose that first tower gold that they rely on to start snowballing through the game.
And this lane swap setup, I should note, has completely eradicated the gold advantage that Solafide had off of the level 1 that went their way. True Shot will tag Dokla this time. These turret plates up top have gone their way. If they can get one more, they will summon the Rift Herald here. That's the plan.
Yep, this should be first Drake, but they're not going to be giving this up. First tower, rather. Winston looking for the undertow and just runs immediately away.
Rift Herald dies. So TSM don't get what they were looking for up on the top side. You do get plenty of plates. That's still, of course, all going into the pockets of this bottom line. Down bottom, Haunter is going to get even more plates in his own pocket, as this is a ton of gold just being passed to TSM through their macro right now. They are taking apart Solafide with this line swap.
Yeah, I'm not really convinced with Solafide's response to this at the moment because...
What response?
Yeah, that's kind of my point, TJ, because they're just leaving Apollo here in the bottom lane to solo farm, but Sion, back in the age when lane swap was the meta, Sion was the top laner you pick into it. To be fair, Gragas was one of them too, so I guess that kind of worked out. But you would pick the Sion, you would leave him bottom lane because he farms really effectively 1v2. Just use that Q when you're under tower, picks up plenty of minions for you, can use the E for range farming. So as we can see, Haunter's really happy with this engagement. He's really chill to just farm up. He's picked up a 2-wave advantage ever since this lane swap has come out, and like you said, it negated the early gold lead that Solafide had.
And especially Zeyzal, if you're looking at this gold chart right now, Zeyzal is just flat out suffering because he has spent the last couple of minutes just wandering around the map trying to keep up with this top lane, kind of participating top side, trying to get back down bottom. He hasn't been in a lane for the last 3 minutes.
He has level 6 at least, though. So,
Yeah.
has the ultimate, has the full kit. That's what I usually worry about when we see a lot of roaming supports. We saw this happen.
Ooh, okay.
Uh-oh.
One thing to monitor here is Apollo, who is getting bigger and bigger. This turret is very low.
There's the engage into the bottom lane. They're trying to find the CC onto Haunter. He's forced to flash out, finds the ultimate, but Zeyzal interrupted it. Apollo chases down Boomerang Blade. Not going to be enough damage just yet. The flash headbutt from Zeyzal will secure the kill onto Haunter. Now Zeyzal just has to sprint out of there, though.
Does he have another headbutt?
He's good. He's good. He
There it
does.
is.
There it is. Fantastic.
And
And
that'll
Winston picks up
unlock
a
the
Drake.
Drake as well. Very, very good stuff from Solafide. They're able to finally issue a response. It is through that bottom lane. Here's the answer. Dokla in trouble.
Has the cast. No, it's been used, but
My
he will
God.
survive. True shot barrage.
He's so good.
He's been playing with the fanciest feet I have ever seen on a Gragas before.
Did you see that flash over the glacial fissure? He flashes away from the glacial fissure. Sure, he gets tagged by the true shot, but then he's able to sidestep Cody's Q and just walk away from the engagement with enough HP and a turret still standing.
Dokla's so good. We've talked about it before, and Dokla is one of those top laners who sometimes you get 11-1 Dokla, sometimes you just get meh Dokla. But you can see where those 11-1 games come from in engages like that. When he flashes over Glacial Fissure, body slams into the person trying to engage on him, and survives a 1v3 dive.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Barrage series that Solafide did unfortunately lose in the best of 3. Dokla certainly wasn't why. His Gnar play that series, his cross-map engage understanding is so good. And that's something to watch out for as we crest this early game. We are going to start seeing Dokla get involved, hopefully, across the map. And what he can do with that Gragas will matter.
Full committal coming in onto this Rift on the top side. Zeyzal looks for the engage, finds the knock-up onto one. Teleport coming in from the bottom side of the map. Here comes Dokla, finds his way in. Shockwave onto two at the top side of the fight, but no damage to follow it up. Apollo just not enough right now. 3,000 HP still on the Herald. It looks like it'll be in Solafide's hands. Got the smite there, secured by Winston.
That was very uncomfortably close, but Winston makes it look easy. I was VOD reviewing that TSM game from yesterday. I have a little bit of a phobia of smite fights in TSM games. But yes, Solafide do get the Herald. They will throw it down immediately because they know they secure backs. There are multiple players who are not on the Rift right now. They will be able to turn this into a significant amount of damage on the mid-turret. They don't get anything more from it, but Solafide, that is still a massive win because TSM ceded a lot of control of the bottom side of the map so that they could get these Rift Heralds, and they have not managed to convert on both of them. That will shift the gold balance over to Solafide's favor. That will shift the overall map control over to their favor.
I mean, you briefly hit on exactly why I think this is so important. It's not that Solafide got themselves a Herald, right? Obviously, they didn't get a ton of damage off it. It's that they denied the Herald from TSM. You saw they rotated their entire team up for this. They do this every game. They're like, Herald, okay, everyone come up. Stop what you're doing. Head to the Herald. They lost it. Solafide have slowed down their momentum. TSM had to lose farm for that. They lost positioning on the map for that. Winston in trouble.
Will be smited. Pops the Ragnarok, though. Just says, I don't understand why you're dumping CC into me. I'm literally playing Olaf. Walks away.
We'll be up again by the time the Drake is up, and that's probably going to be the next fight, too. So, of very little consequences, that ultimate burned.
Yeah. Not really a kill that could be found, but I guess no harm in trying for it. TSM across the board just don't have access to anything. So let's start talking about the fights they're going to have to win, because this is going to be third Drake coming up in just a minute 18. Solafide will, of course, want to contest that to lock in their sole point. And they're looking real good in teamfights right now. Whilst TSM were undoing a lot of the early game damage with their split lane play, Apollo was benefiting from it. I will stand by that TSM were winning that split lane massively, and it was a really good lane swap. But Apollo was being left alone in lane, and he was farming up a ton, and he turned that into a turret and a kill. So Apollo is a serious teamfight threat right now. Tuesday, of course, has also scaled into his mid game, having picked up second item now. So watch out for those two, and if Solafide manage to just build a front line that can allow Tuesday and Apollo to free fire from behind that front line, they are going to win these team fights. It is very functionally them versus Sword.
Yeah, Apollo's on 2 items right now. That's the big thing to look at. And Cody's son, nowhere near that point, doesn't even have the Muramana on its way. Just has a tier and 2 longswords. So if a fight breaks out, it should be in Solafide's favor.
Zeyzal starts things off. True shot doesn't find much. Chips away at the back line. Early skirmish goes Solafide's way. They're able to establish vision and control around the Drake as a result of that.
Comes to engage into the backline. Haunter finds the CC, but Ragnarok is popped. The shockwave into the middle of the fight is huge, and Apollo is untouched. Firing away from the back of the fight. Fizzy's low, but Beep is low, but they are going to back off for the time being.
Yeah, huge play by Sword to deny that, actually. It obviously didn't go TSM's way, but it could have been so much worse. Sword is able to deny the full engage, make sure there can't be any follow-through behind what Zeyzal finds, behind the shockwave. Now TSM have reset to base and will be TPing back in. Solafide have to cancel this Drake tag.
Dokla, a little bit poked out there, but TSM are not ready to give this Drake up, and neither are Solafide. This is played on a knife's edge from here on out.
Poke in from Sword. Oh, flash engage! Dokla, deep dive! Cody's unable to stay alive. Fizzy knocked up, and Zeyzal is gone. Solafide just being chewed away. Apollo found the answer with Sword falling, but do they have the HP to keep going? As that true shot rips through their remaining players. Babib will die, Babib will fall. Jungler gone. Shockwave to follow through. Solafide holds strong, and Tuesday comes up huge.
Apollo was completely untouched that entire fight, safely in the backline, pumping out DPS, and now Solafide find their way to Soul Point at 21 minutes into the game.
Here is what you're talking about. Dokla finds a good engage. Sword's left a little too far forward, and it is Tuesday, it is Apollo, who chews away at Sword's HP, is able to find the kill. That true shot made things scary, but Babib overcommits with a flash engage. And you can see the free-firing damage of Tuesday and Apollo just adding up here.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting choice there to engage onto Tuesday rather than Apollo, considering I feel like Apollo is definitely the bigger threat in these fights. It's so hard to chew through Haunter. He's massive at this point.
Oh my god.
But Apollo
look at that damage chart.
Yeah.
Cody's son doing a lot of work, should be credited with that. He's not on a particularly strong Ezreal right now, so that is above and beyond the call of duty, but not enough in the overall team fight, especially when there is that double threat you can see. Tuesday being the secondary carry.
Dokla is all but dead right now. There's going to be 3 people committed down to the bottom lane. I'm interested in what Solafide are doing in response. Take a look at the mini-map at the top side of the map.
My god.
Immediately going for the Baron.
And Dokla is still alive. I want to note, Teddy Dokes will finally fall. In the meantime, this Baron's down to half HP.
Will be spotted out here. This is going to be the ultimate contest. TSM could turn the game right here if it's stolen away. Red team does secure it. Solafide are safe.
And what did TSM do? Fire off a few skill shots? Hang their heads in shame, man. Because they just got entirely baited. They'll try and turn this into 2 turrets, and they probably will. But 2 turrets in exchange for the Baron is normally a pretty massive loss. Solafide should be able to turn that into much, much more.
This is such a massive advancement from Solafide. The one thing that we have not seen them able to do in the past is have cohesive macro adapting to the game state. This game, that is literally what they are winning off of. Sure, Apollo's doing great in the bottom lane, but it was off their punish of the lane swap. It was off their punish of that long Drake take. It was off their punish of trying to kill Dokla. I feel like they should have learned by now that that's not something you get to do this game. That is how Solafide have been winning.
Eventually, they killed Dokla.
I mean, yeah, but they lost the Baron for it. I feel like that's a strong lesson.
Good, worth it. That's how good Dokla is, Matt.
You're right.
It's a good trade. Sure, it will fall on the top side. Yeah, no, I think that's a good conversation point because Solafide have been plagued against many other. Okay, engage here. Dive from Sword. He's trying to get away from this. And if he can buy enough time, he'll have backup. Here's Cody's son. Sword's already gone. Hanser in the front lines.
Looking for a little bit of CC, but being chased down. Flashes away from the shockwave, but there goes Zazel into the back line of the fight. Hanser getting chewed up by Apollo's DPS. Tuesday's the one to take it. Even the dead Scions having a rough time. Baron buffed up. Solafide find 3 kills and lose no one.
Sword overextending there on Solafide, once again playing through good macro awareness, are able to spot that extension and punish it. This is the mid-game where their team comes online. This is the mid-game where they have Apollo far out ahead. Tuesday ready, active, being that backline damage source he loves to be in team fights. And the second they get to that state where they know they can win any team fight they pick, Solafide activate, they turn on the switch. And this is the decisiveness that they have missed throughout the overall amateur circuit. I'm really pleased that Solafide have managed to generate this here.
I know we talk up Apollo a lot, but Apollo pulling out Sivir the first time I've seen an NA amateur, and then just rocking the entire game with it, 5-0 right now, pumping out all of the damage for his team. Tuesday's doing a lot too, to be fair. But this is so impressive, such a fantastic showing that Solafide know what their draft is accomplishing and how to play around it.
And I think the Sivir gives them the confidence to just be able to trade a Baron. There are very few other team comps where you, at the, 20-minute mark, just say, yeah, we can get a Baron for this 3-minute window.
We just have infinite move speed. Right, that's what Sivir provides in team fights. You can just run people down, and if they come and stop the Baron with their entire team, you sprint out of there. You're safe.
TSM setting up here. Watch Babip on the flank, trying to find an angle. This is for the soul here.
TSM using Hanser as the front line to keep everyone out of here. Not going to be able to find the CC. Zazel into the back. There comes Dokla as well. Great Shurima shuffle, but it's not enough to stop the Olaf. Ragnarok in the right side of the fight. But it looks like Apollo in a little bit of trouble here. Finds his way back out of the fight to the left. And he is full health.
Sword.
Dokla flashes away and will finally fall, TJ.
Sword just got completely zoned off of the fight. Does finally manage to rejoin, though, as Dokla is taken down. TSM shift their entire focus. The second Sword gets pincered to turn to him, and that pays off. Now, they're able to contest. Apollo takes the front lines. Oh! Cody Sun finds the kill, though. Zazel gone. Apollo pinned against the wall. And that is exactly what they needed. Their investment in Sword is rewarded. TSM are able to turn a fight, pick up a Drake, and that will save the game for now, even as it costs them an inhibitor turret.
That's fine. That's a good trade right there. Apollo finally goes down in a fight, and we can see how the team fight kind of falls apart around him. You don't have those DPS. The front line is doing nothing. And beautiful job from Cody Sun. Look at that damage grab.
My God.
The visual is really deceiving, because that blue bar should be twice the length of that red bar of Apollo.
7K. And a lot of that, and hopefully we'll see this in the replay, a lot of that comes from the initial engagement, where Cody Sun is able to perfectly space the hard engage from Solafide, just dump spells into the front line and rob Solafide of so much of their initial firing power that then he's able to burn Apollo low. We see the knock-on effects of that. That's when you're calling out. Apollo's having to back away, stay safe. And with swords separated at the bottom of the fight, TSM are able to turn that into a favorable 3-4v1 as they bring their resources down, back up Sword v Dokla. and get a favorable split engage because of how much work that Cody-san has done to the rest of the fight.
Apollo safe in this engage for the time being, but has to run out, pops the ultimate, and here
Sword.
comes the engage from Dokla. Sword is down, but Cody-san still free firing at the bottom of the fight, isolated away from the rest of the team. Babip and Cody-san forced away from a team fight victory from Solafide.
And that may undo everything TSM just got. Sword's focused down early. With Fizzy and Hanser gone, Cody-san needs to somehow hold on to this. Pretty much all by himself. Babip is coming down the mid lane behind this, but the inhibitor will fall. Solafide don't go for the end. They turn towards Babip.
And I think looking at Apollo is the key here once again for Solafide, because he is such a large portion of their team fight. And you can see all the engage is going on around him. He is perfectly safe here at the top of the fight. Then once the initial burst is gone, enters in completely untouched because Zeyzal is delivering people into the back of these fights.
Well, also Cody-san was just completely separated. Cody-san got the sword treatment. They all of a sudden are able to get on the sword, burn him down, then say, hey, Cody-san, you're not getting near this. So TSM, after losing that fight, say we have to do something and start pressuring, playing around this Baron. This is 4v4 currently, will be 4v5 once Zeyzal joins them, because Sword was all the way back in base.
We'll be backing up now, but has to clear out the super minions there.
Doesn't have TP.
No way for him to contest this. Dokla goes in, finds the CC onto Hanser. Nobody wants to full engage that just yet, but Hanser has to blow the ultimate regardless in defense.
We've seen this before. If you give Solafide a window, they can just focus this down, but instead it's Zeyzal diving in. Cody-san, back of the fight, does of his damage. Babip zoning up top, will go down.
Cody-san low, but not out of the fight just yet. Firing away, forced to jump over the wall. Zeyzal with an engage on the left side of the fight. Sword goes in and finds Apollo. TSM can't turn the fight off of it, but find a huge kill in the back. Cody-san, though, defending his support Fizzy to the death.
He
Now
can't find any
Cody-san
of these
last one
kills.
up.
Solafide are all knocked low, but Cody-san can't finish any of them. He chases Winston, he chases everyone down to 1 HP, but they just don't have enough. Cody-san again is split when the big plays are coming through. Solafide aren't going to be able to end immediately because of their low HP bars, but they have had time to reset, re-engage. You could see what we were talking about during the draft phase, during the first team fight of this game. There are just so many threats online for Solafide. Dokla here on this front line doing such good work, zoning everyone back, whereas Cody-san is separated from Sword until Sword goes in, at which point Cody-san is already out of the fight. There is never an opportunity for TSM to fire on all cylinders.
And that's really the disaster that we see fight after fight. You know, if Cody-san is able to fire away, you'll see at the end of this fight, Winston nearly dies for this. But that is the only win condition they really have. He is their damage. We've seen the damage chart. Sword is not getting to do anything because he's getting dove every single fight, immediately blown up.
That team fight, he did real good.
That's the problem.
That team fight, all go to bat for Sword. I think it's also, you can just look at the damage being achieved by frontliners. Like, it's a really good Dokla game. A lot of games are really good Dokla games. This is a really good Dokla game. Okay, Soul Point yet again. Solafide is setting up for it as Dokla goes in. Huge cask! It splits the fight.
Looks like Zeyzal zoning off while Hanser dies in the top side of the fight. Winston running away, but will be able to find the re-engage after Hanser's corpse falls. Will finally go down. This is now a 5 versus 4 for Solafide if they choose to re-engage. But they just want the soul.
And again, Dokla goes huge here with his cask just splitting up TSM and completely denying them any kind of entry to this fight. The second he throws that cask after Hanser has engaged, TSM's plans are completely scattered to the wind. There is no way for them to execute a coherent team fight afterwards.
And kind of for the rest of the game, too. Mountain Soul is going to give their DPS the defense they need.
Sword.
Sword's huge!
And that Emperor's Divide, it sets things up. Cody-san comes through! What a true shot back! That
able
is
to take out
TSM
all
needed.
of them in the back line.
Solafide get over aggressive, And now TSM will be able to chase down these kills. I think Winston make it away from them. But what's the point of having the Baron? What's the point of having the Mountain Soul if 3 of your players are dead?
Yeah, I think this is what we want to see more of from Sword. He's not been getting to do this for all of these fights pretty much. But if you can get in there, push them back entirely, and put out, more importantly, enough damage that a true shot barrage from Cody Sun is going to take them down to half, you're good.
Well, it is finally what we've been asking for this entire time. Everyone is on the same page. TSM Academy have Sword to set things up, Glacial Fissure to follow through, everyone's synced up, and they're able to finally find the team fight they are looking for.
And the interesting thing for me is that Sword went into that fight, it seemed, knowing they were not going to make it back out. Right? That was very clearly not the correct positioning if you want to live through that team fight. You're caught between the entirety of Solafide and their tower. But what that enabled Sword to do was just say, okay, I just need to get out the maximum DPS possible. Shurima shuffled them into our tower, and then I'm just going to pump all of my damage spells at once and hope my team can clean up. And it worked. That was the right call for that fight.
It is what Sword has been trying to do at multiple points during the game. His dive into the backlines of the scattered fight near their wolves earlier very nearly turned it. His separation from the team fight earlier turned things as his good positioning and good map awareness worked out for TSM. He is very clearly the secondary carry of this team behind Cody Sun in this game. And for the first time, they're able to operate at the same time due to mispositioning, over-aggression from Solafide. There is no reason for them to all be trying to dive a turret just to kill Cody Sun.
He's important, but he's not worth losing your entire team for, guys.
No. Especially not, it was like Tuesday on the front lines there. I get it, we're feeling frisky. You're taking an Academy team pretty late. Wow. There's no feeling in the world like it, I'm sure. But, as we get an engage here, you still need to respect him.
Ragnarok has been popped by Winston. We'll be able to get out of the
Babip.
initial engagement. There's the stun from Babip. In trouble a little bit on the back line, but Winston can be able to re-engage Zazel with the huge 4-man knock-up. It doesn't matter. Haunts are going to be the main target of Solafide. But
Sword
there
again.
goes Sword, TJ.
I don't think it's enough. Cody Sun separated. He's still pumping in the damage. Winston with the deep dive. Pulls Cody back. Cody finds another. A double kill in the fight. And Babip and Fizzy have held a triple kill for Cody. And they keep going. Shockwave from Tuesday slows things down. Big cask as well. Cody needs to reconnect with Fizzy. And he can't in time. Which means TSM are left in a 2v2 on the map. But they have gotten another fight fought even.
This is just the Cody Sun game. This is the entirety of this game just rests on one player's shoulders.
He's
if Cody
10-1 match.
Yeah, if he dies in a fight, TSM lose. If he's zoned out of a fight, TSM lose. If he has any chance to touch a single member of Solafide, it's a clean wipe for TSM.
Sword again, though, with the huge Emperor's Divide really setting up for that fight. Worth noting. Apollo goes down pretty early, which is why his stats look much smaller than usual, but it's worth noting that Tuesday, quite a lot of good work there. He was just isolated. TSM, for once, had much better positioning. They're leveraging Babip and Haunser as the front line initially, Fizzy comes in later. But they are building around that front-to-back teamfight. They are now confident they win. And I think at some point, that's going to keep happening. You know, you're looking at Azir into Orianna. Obviously, they both scale well, but the Azir is going to look a little bit better as this game goes on pretty consistently. Sword is going to be better in the next team fight than he was in the last.
I mean, at a certain point, I know this sounds crazy, but I don't think Sword needs to be any better. He's pumping out the damage. He's performing his role. They're using him as a pseudo-engaged massive burst damage so Cody Sun can clean up, and he's doing it great.
Yeah. And Cody Sun is just outperforming Apollo. There's... Like, this Sivir looked good early mid, kind of been a little quiet in the late game, but even during those early fights, we were marveling at how much Cody Sun was getting done.
Apollo in the backside of fight, safe for the time being, but so is Cody Sun. The 80 carries decide these fights. Both of them decide to back off of this one.
Yeah, so Elder is about to be up. Baron is up. There is a wave knocking on the inhibitor in that top lane. TSM have to address it at some point. But they also cannot leave this mid lane.
Dokla, I am a little uncomfortable with that positioning. Because this is potentially Dokla getting picked, if he's not careful.
Yeah, so he backs away. TSM seem to be indicating they want this Elder. I would agree with them. That is their best chance at deny. It doesn't matter if Solafide get the Baron, if TSM get the Elder. We'll see whether or not they can fight over it. Dokla with the flash engage does not lock down Sword.
Cast's not close enough. Sword able to dodge that one out. This means fights are going to be a whole lot harder for Solafide from here out. But an inhib goes down in the top lane. Here just comes the TP from Dokla and Tuesday. They want to backdoor this thing.
TP in response. Tuesday will be there. Sword in answer. Cody's son already responding as well, trying to get out of this fight just so he can get away. He will survive. Cody with 1 HP denies Winston. Fizzy for the front lines will eventually go down. Zazel able to accomplish that. Babip needs to back away. No HP. Cody's son fleeing as well. Solafide have abandoned the back door. It was a bait. Sword's now disconnected from this fight, and they have slaughtered the remains of TSM inside their jungle.
Now Babip being forced to engage 1v1 versus the Alistar. Not working out too great. The cast goes in. Dokla, I don't think you can chase this anymore. Cody-san incredibly low, heals up, doesn't find it, and instead Tuesday takes the kill. That was damn close.
Cody-san, absolutely insane plays there. Doesn't work out as you say though. Sword is the only remaining player of TSM, and Solafide with a baited backdoor seem to have closed this game. There will be 40 seconds on carry respawns here. Cody-san 30 seconds out. And Elder is in the hands of Solafide. I don't know that they can end immediately, but they certainly have time to get the Elder. They certainly have time to turn that into a Baron as well.
The interesting thing about this game for me is that Solafide have kept growing their gold lead the entire time, but it doesn't feel like they have accelerated the game significantly since they first got the Sol and Baron. And even then, that was the acceleration. They didn't get a whole lot off of it. This second Baron is where I want to see them really shove it through and end the game. I mean, it's 40 minutes in. They kind of have to.
Baron up. 41 minutes on the clock. TSM will have everyone back up to defend. They're trying to do the right thing, the right macro call right now, which is just control the entire map as much as possible, shove the waves as far forward as you can. This is a Nocturnal. Don't worry about it.
I was trying to figure it out. I was staring really intently at the bottom of my screen. Could not figure it out. We're back here at the caster desk. So, TJ, I think this is the longest game you and I have casted so far in the PGC.
I think so. We are going late here. Engage from Solafide now with Elder, with Baron. What in God's name is Babip doing?
Cutting the wave, maybe?
Okay. Oh yeah, there aren't any minions in front. He could absolutely get away with this. There aren't any minions.
It's really good.
Babip's a genius. I apologize for the soft flame. He's just denied mid lane entry.
Now they're going to have to settle for the bottom lane, but look at top lane. Sword is pushing against those super minions, so it is either bot lane or bust at this point. Granted, there is an open inhib mid, but I don't think TSM are going to let them get there.
Okay, here comes Solafide for the game end. Elder, Baron in hand. This is an unwinnable team fight if I've ever seen one. Babip on the flank. Solafide, 1 inhib down, 2 inhibs down. Looking for the third. It's already down. 3 inhibs gone. But they don't go for the fight.
Well, they've still got the Elder Drake. They just want to bring the
minions
in so that there's constant pressure on the Nexus towers.
Minute left on the Elder.
Sword just got chunked so low from that boomerang blade.
Zazel for the engage. Flank around the side from Dokla. Will poke at Fizzy. They've got a deep engage. Winston's very low. Winston will not go down. All of the turrets are gone. Deep dive from Sword. Trying to set this up. They're all so low on Solafide, but they can't confirm any of the kills. Finally, there's one. Dokla got Sword in trade. Deep dive for the Nexus, though. It is already done. Despite TSM Academy's valiant efforts, Game 1 of this best of 3 series in 40 43 minutes will go to Solafide.
A 43-minute banger that was just a tale of two 80 carries, and Dokla being fantastic off the back of it.
We got 2 more games after this. I don't know
You good?
how I will survive that. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss them. We're going to throw things over to a quick break. Then we got the analyst test to break all that down, set us up for game 2. The bangers don't stop. UGP continues right after this.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 has just concluded between TSM Academy and Solafide. And, you know, to be fair, Mike Young, I know that you said that TSM Academy were going to take this 2-0 over Solafide. You know, Cody's son almost made that a reality. But, you know, Mike Young, I think something you said along to the lines of, why aren't TSM playing around Cody's son? This guy is literally smurfing fights.
Yeah, I mean, I did call it. I was like, Cody's son is their best player. If this guy gets gold, he's going to pop off. I just didn't see them really play to him, and just like there were some mishaps in the early game.
Oh, you know, speaking of mishaps in the early game, Alec, I know you wanna get in on that, and as we get that first clip ready whenever to go for the level 1 shenanigans, Alec, give us the setup for what happened.
Man, it's one, just really good placement and kind of the start of the game for Solafide, right? They know that we're going to place an early ward, and more than likely TSM are going to try and scout this out. They're going to try and go in. Now, the tread trinket is so unfortunate right here for Babip. It is just like they're already seen, and so they walk in. Solafide really smartly they immediately just pincer them into this position, and from there, so hard. I know we were talking about it. It's so hard as a jungler to get any kind of bot priority as this Udyr if your bot lane's already ended off. So we see right here, they're sitting on top of ward at this point, full of vision. We see that some of the members of Solafide are already making their way down. Winston and Tuesday are here. Zazel and Apollo are very smartly getting ready to kind of prep this. They're going to go towards the bot lane. They're actually going to then pink or put a vision ward inside of this brush. And at this point, all of TSM are already spotted. Now twice over. And it is the beginning of the end for some of the early game here. 2 kills going over, some of their summoner spells, and basically it already puts Solafide in the driver's seat.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm on, you know, TSM's position here, I'd be so sad. I'm Udyr, my bot lane just died, and I lost Flash, one of my main ganking, you know, strats. So There's not much you can really do in the early game after that.
And for Babip, you know, thankfully, even though, like you said, you know, without Flash, you can't Flash bear slap someone for early ganks, you know, for the first few minutes of the game now. But, you know, as Udyr, even though Mike Young, you know, you said you've kind of despised this champion coming back into the meta, as it allows him to just power farm, full clear his jungle, and it still allows him to be somewhat proactive on the map. They do the standard traditional TSM Academy strat of swap bot lane towards top side here, Alec, and take Rift Herald at the 8-minute mark. But this is something that kind of jeopardizes TSM's bot lane because it takes them out of the laning phase, and whereas Apollo and Zazel are able to get more time in that bottom lane, as we'll see a clip soon of how Cody's son's time outside of the lane already when you have Apollo having a 2-kill lead for himself, it puts TSM's bottom lane somewhat behind.
Yeah, the Rift Herald is just a standard for really good teams. I love that they're going for these swaps. They're being proactive on the map. This is when we were saying, okay, Dokla, do not be greedy. You know that the jungler and the support are here in this position. They're in fog. Please do not get caught on this. And yes, they're trying to get their bot lane ahead. They did this yesterday versus Winthrop, and they're trading sides with the enemy AD carry. Now, in this trade, we actually see them start to rotate the jungle and support up, but the entire time that this bot lane is moving in top side or then moving, having to go back and get something, Apollo this entire time is just getting free farm. He's getting so much gold. When you look, they're getting a bunch of free scaling for their Sivir and getting her a bunch of items, getting her basically a free laning phase, whereas Zazul's unlocked to move around the map. Every time Fizzy has to then walk top lane to support Ezreal, it's just more and more objectives across the map and just map control in general being lost by TSM Academy.
We also have kind of going back to what Mike Young was expecting from TSM Academy, or at least if he was in the coach's seat, it's like, man, Cody Sun is you're probably your strongest player on here. Why are we rotating him around the map so much? And if that clip wasn't enough kind of proof to show how much Cody Sun was moved around the map, whereas Apollo got all this free farm, just guess if you're in the chat, which heat map belongs to Cody Sun and which one belonged to Apollo here, Mike?
I mean, Apollo is just staying in the bot lane, getting those solo EXP, solo, CS.
Yep.
So Sivir definitely was really strong, but I'm just still impressed by how Cody Sun, even from behind, dying level 1, his jungler losing flash and having to path away from him, still did so much damage. So much for TSM.
Man, it was really tragic to watch them slow. Like, Cody Sun was the only reason they were staying in this game. I will also give credit over to Sword. This guy on the front line, Azir, basically just finding engages, always going for those Shurima shuffles, was a huge game changer in a ton of those fights. For the side of TSM, when we look at Solafide, however, their entire team just feels so nice. Right, you're using the on the hunt movement speed to just get you right into that back line. Ezreal is constantly never able to kind of arcane shift forward because there's an Olaf in his face, even with the turbo chem tank. And I mean, Zazul's positioning in a lot of these fights was fantastic. We got to see some really great flanks from him on this Alistar. For the side of TSM, when I'm looking for them when we were going into this game, they're down 8,000 gold, and the fights were still looking somewhat competitive. It was really just a testament to how much their draft was really well executed for just wanting to do nothing, go into team fights, and look to dominate. But TSM, they did the opposite. They were trying to do something in the early game. We saw that level 1, and just wait. All you have to do is have patience. And it's all about the execution, and I think that is what TSM has had such a big problem with coming in from last series and into this one.
When we look at some of the early fights that came about because of Solafide's attention put into ensuring that Apollo got a lot of that solo XP and gold, he was at 2 items at this point where Cody Sun had barely reached his, but Apollo was on a bigger wake-up along with Solafide's overall composition. Their one-item wake-ups across the board here are just much stronger because this composition is designed to spike at this point in the game, and them contesting over for the 3rd dragon. They fought for so long, by the way, Mike. I think one of the biggest points that we noticed that Tuesday, use Shockwave at the very beginning of the fight, and then you'll see later on the Shockwave will come up again just because of this Mexican standoff between Solafide and TSM Academy.
Yeah, honestly, I was just so surprised that nobody really was pulling the trigger for the longest time. But I respect the Gragas E flash here from Dokla. I saw across this game he was looking for engages, he was looking for those E flash ultis, and huge respect for that, because when you're in a tense 40-minute game where one thing can change the outcome of a fight, you need one of those players to just like stand up for the rest of the team and just start a fight.
Yeah, and you don't want to be the player that is like, makes the wrong play, right? You don't want to be in that 40-minute game and you make the flash forward and you lose your team the game. It's better to have that player than to not have them at all, where you're sitting there as TSM and then we saw Babip kind of just go in. He's like, yes, I will now attack the AD carry, or the mid laner. It's like, oh no, I'm dead. And the biggest thing yet again is just, where's the killer instinct? Where's the bite here for TSM Academy? We need to see that a little bit more. We're seeing it from Solafide in this one, and I'm looking forward to what we see from game 2, because if that's kind of like the style we're gonna get, they're gonna be fighting tooth and nail, I think, for a lot of objectives.
And I like what you mentioned there, where the lack of a killer instinct from TSM Academy, because it was something that X Special brought up multiple times on the desk yesterday when they were playing against Winthrop University. There's this lack of confidence when it comes to just going forward. Now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. This time around, they were playing a scaling composition, and so they don't have that luxury to actually force fights because they're kind of behind. But when it came to the later parts of the game, it was really only Sword who was consistently trying to look for fights. And while it's great to see that killer instinct from the young rookie mid laner for TSM Academy, if your Azir is the only one that's forcing the engages, you're losing out on half of your consistent DPS in those late game fights, because we know how much an Azir can really turn the tides of battle when he's allowed to free hit with all those soldiers. But if it's just down to Cody's son to pick up the pieces, as Smurf as he was throughout, one of those later fights where he almost got a pentakill for himself, it's not going to be enough here. And I want to see, as we are getting ready for game 2 in a bit, I'm going to turn to Mike Young, because you originally predicted for TSM Academy to walk away with the series. If they're looking to come back, where in the draft phase and the first few minutes of the game are you looking for TSM Academy to change their game plan?
I definitely want to see more priority through the bot lane. Usually when you think about Ezreal, it's like leaving Ezreal on an island, right? I'd rather see an AD carry. If Kai'Sa's open, easily just pick up the Kai'Sa. I'd rather see an AD carry that wants to be played through, that wants to, just get funneled all the resources. And that way, it just encourages the jungler, the mid laner and top to just come through bottom. Also, second point is just more dragon control. Like, the fact that Solafide got Mountain Soul just made it so Ezreal cannot do as much damage.
Yeah, he just has a free shield at this point, right? Right now for TSM, I need them to be able to find... We would need them to basically find their voice. They seem like they're all over the place, and this is why some of their plays are looking so good. Their team fights are looking so clean. They're mechanically executing, but someone is not there to tell them we're going in, or hey, we're pulling back, we're going to hit the mid wave while we're doing this dragon fight and push for mid priority. For TSM, I think that they're going to need, I think Mike Young is correct here. We just need to be able to play through bot lane, have our jungler kind of just sit on a champion that is waiting for either an engage. I'm thinking stuff of maybe a Flash Lilia ultimate is coming to mind. I really want to see what happens with this team if Cody's son is really kind of the leading force.
Yeah, things are going to have to definitely change up for TSM Academy. I would love to see more focus towards Cody's son, especially when he's been the best performing player for this Academy roster. Definitely just goes to show that if he got a little bit more love from Babbitt, then, maybe things would go for TSM Academy's way. I love a competitive series, so, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, TJ and Iberia are going to see whether TSM Academy can bring this to a game 3. But don't close that tab, folks. We'll be right back.